So a player was taken so early in the draft that he's surprisingly already the second highest paid at his position despite not yet playing a single snap in the NFL. Well, in today's video, I'll dive into why that's pretty crazy yet also makes a bit of sense, opinions being very split on the Brett Favre quote-unquote scandal, Netflix documentary, and more right after. Alright, first up, the deadline for teams to exercise their fifth-year options on players drafted in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft was yesterday, May 1st. A fifth-year option allows teams to retain their first-round picks if they want to for an additional year without breaking the bank on an extension, with that fifth year being fully guaranteed and the amount paid out to them or owed to them determined by a formula of several different factors. That's why the thought of hitting on a quarterback in the first round is so appealing. If you hit on the pick, you now have 5 years of the most valuable position in football on a relatively cheap deal. However, with this particular draft class 2022, Kenny Picketts was the only quarterback taken in the first round that year, and the Cleveland Browns just declined his option. That was a no-brainer, as they would have owed him over $22 million fully guaranteed in 2026, and they have enough quarterback problems going on as it is. You can see the full list here of every player who didn't have their option picked up. An interesting one to me is the Ravens center Tyler Linderbaum. He's a perfect example of why it actually made sense to decline his fifth-year option even though he's an incredible player. As it is currently, the fifth-year option contract value is the same for all offensive linemen and not broken down by position like tackle, guard, and center. Tyler Linderbaum is one of the best centers in football, but had the Ravens picked up his fifth-year option, they would have had to pay him $23.4 million in 2026, which is over $5 million more than the current highest paid center in Chiefs Creed Humphrey. That's obviously not realistic, so the move here is to decline the option and work towards a long-term extension with the player. And that's exactly what Baltimore's plan seems to be, with Ravens GM Eric DeCosta releasing a statement that read, "While we will not apply the fifth-year option on Tyler Linderbaum, it is our intention for him to remain a Baltimore Raven long term." Someone else they hope to be keeping around for a long time is safety Kyle Hamilton. He was drafted the same year as Linderbaum, and they did accept his option, which is much more feasible as he'll carry a cap hit of $18.6 million in 2026. And going back to Eric DeCosta's statement regarding Hamilton, he said that they're exercising his fifth-year option, quote, "with the goal of working toward a multi-year contract extension." And when that day comes, don't be surprised if Hamilton resets the safety market, going above Kirby Joseph, who just signed a 4-year deal that made him the highest paid. As far as the guys who did get their options picked up by the team, there's a lot of them. Not going to name them all, but you can see all of them on the screen here, and you'll start to notice a theme looking through these names. They are basically all the best players from this draft and guys that their team wants to keep around for a long time if possible. And since we're talking contracts, this year's rookie class is now beginning to sign their rookie deals. Well, one of those rookies just inked a very nice deal for himself. According to SpotTrack, running back Ashton Jeanty's contract with the Raiders is a fully guaranteed contract of roughly $35.8 million with a signing bonus of over $22 million. And while that slots him in as the 11th highest paid running back in terms of annual salary, that $35.8 million is the second highest amount of guaranteed money of any running back in the league behind only Saquon Barkley. And it isn't by much. Jeanty's number is $35.8 million and Barkley's is $36 million. It's no disrespect to Jeanty at all, but it's pretty wild to think that a guy who hasn't yet played a snap in the NFL is already getting paid similar to what the best running back in the league is making. I mean, that's why we rarely see running backs get drafted this early. The higher they're drafted, the more you have to pay them on their rookie contracts. And since the league has been valuing the position less and less, I mean, they might be making a comeback, let's be honest, it just makes sense why teams have been hesitant to take a running back so high, because you are not only using premium draft capital, but you're immediately making that player one of the highest paid at his position. Jeanty was the 6th overall pick, and he was actually the highest running back taken since Saquon Barkley, who the Giants took 2nd overall in 2018. Saquon is the last running back to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, by the way. So we'll see if Jeanty can follow in his footsteps and buck the trend of quarterbacks and receivers winning it every year. Next up, we've got to talk about this controversial documentary coming out on May 20th about former NFL quarterback Brett Favre. It's called The Fall of Favre. And no, this isn't an ad, but the trailer from this thing, and obviously the title, makes it seem like it's going to be a documentary highlighting the negatives about the end of his career and some stuff that has followed after. He's certainly no stranger to controversy, and again, it looks like the doc's going to cover everything from his alleged welfare scandal to the sexting scandal back when he played with the Jets. It might even cover his relationship with Aaron Rodgers a little bit as well. Things didn't really end the smoothest in Green Bay as they drafted his replacement in Aaron Rodgers back in 2005. Favre was getting up there in age, but was a 3-time MVP and a Super Bowl champion, so he obviously had a lot of pride and confidence in himself. He was never a fan of mentoring Rodgers in any way, which is very well documented, but it wasn't until 2008 that the Packers finally moved on and named Rodgers their starting quarterback. Favre was then traded to the Jets, and after starting 8-3, he tore his bicep and his throwing arm, but played through it, and they wound up going 9-7 and missing the playoffs as he proceeded to lead the league in interceptions. He signed with the Vikings in 2009, having one of his best statistical seasons and leading them to the NFC Championship before pissing it away and throwing a costly pick. He played one more season in Minnesota, but his body was fried at that point, and he retired for good after the 2010 season. Well, during his final year in Minnesota, some promiscuous photos that he had sent to somebody during his time with the Jets began to surface, and that somebody was Jen Sturger, who was a model and at the time worked for the Jets. She claimed that Favre reached out via MySpace. Yes, back in the day, MySpace was pretty poppin'. He also texted her and left her voicemails. It was a super weird and creepy look for Brett Favre and definitely a tough look for him at the end of his career. Well, Jen looks to be involved quite a bit in this upcoming documentary, with a clip from it surfacing where she says, "Brett Favre ruined my life." So that's going to be a big part of it, but then in more recent years, Favre found himself wrapped up in a massive civil lawsuit as he was being sued by the Mississippi Department of Human Services, who were seeking to recoup, quote, temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF funds that had allegedly been misused. Basically, he was accused of pushing state officials for funding in order to build a volleyball facility at his alma mater, Southern Miss. He was then accused of collecting over $1 million for speeches that he never gave, and then was a top investor in a company that was developing a drug to prevent concussions, and that company is alleged to have received TANF funds as well. It's important to note that he has not been criminally charged, though others involved in the situation were, and not only has Favre repaid over $1 million, but he himself has sworn he's done nothing wrong, saying the media is simply smearing his name, and declared that no one ever told him, and he did not know that funds designated for welfare recipients were going to the university or himself. That situation has a bunch of rabbit holes I could go down. It's pretty complex. I just hope you know I'm trying to give you an outline of the situation rather than declaring innocence or guilt here. Either way, this story became pretty massive as it involved a former superstar NFL quarterback being accused of stealing millions of dollars from people in need. He was, of course, heavily scrutinized by many, while others like Pat McAfee turned him into a walking punchline, constantly making fun of him on his show and they're just cracking jokes. You know how Pat McAfee and those guys are. Well, Brett Favre actually filed a lawsuit against him, though he later dropped it after the two worked it out behind the scenes. McAfee wasn't the only one either. He also filed a lawsuit talking about Brett Favre against Shannon Sharpe for comments he made on FS1 at the time. It's been a very messy post-playing career for Brett Favre, to say the least, but he definitely has a lot of people going to bat for him in the midst of this documentary being released. You have some people in the comments saying, hey, everybody makes mistakes and this documentary isn't capturing the good things about him, but rather focusing on the negative. Favre actually responded to a comment like this, by the way, saying, "Thank you so much." And it looks like he's responded to a handful of the comments that were defending him, including one that is calling people to boycott Netflix for attacking Favre. Some people said they're only doing a hit piece on Favre because of his political views. And then, of course, you have people who are basically like, nah, he deserves all the smoke and the negative attention he's getting for everything that he's done. Basically, opinions vary widely on Brett Favre. He's either the spawn of Satan or he's being persecuted like Jesus Christ himself. As we all know, though, the truth is probably somewhere in between. But hey, you guys got to let me know your thoughts on the whole documentary. You gonna watch it? Is it a waste of time? You think it's a hit piece? Let me know where you kind of stand on this situation. I probably am not going to watch it personally, but it's been making the rounds through the news enough that I felt like it was worth talking about. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.
Huddle.